Coming up tonight, Cameroon's Decentralization Board examines strides made in 2019 and fine-tunes strategies for the effective implementation of the recently promulgated law ceding powers to local councils. Eno Abrams Egwe tells voters in the Northwest region to conquer fear and perform their civic rights. The Lekam most senior official is in Bamenda, where the military is also preparing for the elections. And the Senate trial for impeached U.S. President Donald Trump has started. The details now. Thanks for watching the 7:30 news on CRTV. I am Moki Edwin Kinzeka in Yaoundé. The first session of the National Decentralization Board for 2020 has ended in Yaoundé under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Joseph John Gute. The board examined strides made in the decentralization process and laid the groundwork for the implementation of a new law on decentralization that was voted by Parliament and promulgated by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, recently. Sisako Tamko reports.
Of great expectation, hopefully in the deepening of the decentralization process, as members of the board are briefed on the meaning of the indications that are contained in the General Code on Local Authorities during the first session for the year. It is important for them to know that in conformity with the recommendations of the Major National Dialogue, the Northwest and Southwest regions benefit from special status provided by Section 62 Sub 2 of the Constitution.
We have an organ that contains two chambers, the House of Divisional Representatives and the House of Chiefs, and we have a bureau instead of having a president. We also have much more competencies transferred by the states, and we also have a public independent conciliator.
The appointment of government delegates will also be suppressed in this new dispensation.
In the 4 towns that has the government delegates, we are going to have mayors of the cities that are going to be elected by all the municipal councillors of the town.
Measures are being taken to give the future mayors the appropriate skills to deal with the new challenges of decentralization.
We are already working on the training that is going to be given to the mayors, to their deputies, and to the municipal councillors. We are also getting something ready for the administration of the councils. And we were instructed by the Prime Minister, Head of Government, to have a specific training for the representatives of the state.
Finance Minister Louis Paul Mutaze on his part promised to find ways to increase significantly resources that will be given to local authorities, given that the state budget had been adopted by the time the law on local authorities was promulgated. Minister George Oban was instructed by the Prime Minister to prepare an enabling instrument on General Code on regional and local authorities.
A new era has dawned on local councils in the country as decentralization gets effective. It will be a historic devolution of powers and resources to local councils and the involvement of citizens in decision-making from the base. Ebenezer Kanga reports on the new dispensation and the profile of the men and women who should head councils in this era.
One of the priorities of government is to accelerate decentralization in the country. Decentralization, which entails the devolution of a lot of powers and corresponding resources to councils. The law to institute the General Code on Regional and Local Authorities, enacted by the head of state on December 24, 2019, lays down the legal framework for decentralization and paves the way for the process to be fast-tracked. A new era has dawned, therefore, on local collectivities in Cameroon. But the new dispensation calls for men and women with a certain profile to take up management of councils. For it does not suffice to transfer a lot of powers and resources to councils. The powers and resources must be effectively used for the population to feel that things are changing.
The visiting head of the UN Regional Office for Central Africa, Guinean-born Francois Luceni-Fall, has invited election stakeholders to rally their energies and contribute towards a successful organization of the February 9 council and parliamentary elections. He was speaking today in Yaoundé after an audience with Prime Minister John Gute. The representative of the UN Secretary General was accompanied by the Secretary General of the Economic Community of Central African States, Chadian-born Ahmad Alam-Mi. Christian Chiatam reports from the Star Building.
The UN Regional Bureau for Central Africa, UNOCA, and the Economic Community of Central African States, ECAS, have been on a joint mission in Cameroon to strengthen the capacity of stakeholders and educate major actors of the electoral process on the need for a fair and smooth organization of next February's council and legislative elections. The audience with Prime Minister Joseph Dion Gute falls in line with the numerous training sessions and consultations the UNOCA and ECAS envoys have been holding with different actors in the country.
We are here to make an appeal to all the stakeholders in Cameroon in order to call them to maintain the peace and build on the gain of social, economical, and unity in this country. I think it's very, very important. Citizen of this country has a right to vote and to choose those people who represent them.
The UNOCA and ECAS envoys recognize the position of Cameroon as a driving force in the Central African sub-region and say a free and fair election is important in safeguarding the country's position. They have condemned calls for the boycott of elections and security threats in the northwest and southwest regions. They say UNOCA and ECAS intend to accompany Cameroon all through the election process.
The Secretary General of the Economic Community of Central African States, Ahmad Alam-Mi, and the head of the UN Regional Office for Central Africa, Francois Luceni-Fall, were also received in audience today by the Minister of Communication. After discussions, a press conference followed in which Minister René Emmanuel Sadi asked the media to avoid hate speeches and promoting tribalism. The press was reminded to respect the code of ethics during the electoral campaigns. Come January 25, they were called upon to maintain the peace, integrity, and unity of the nation through responsible reporting. Voters in the Northwest region have been requested to defeat fear and massively take part in the February 9 twin elections. The chairperson of the governing body of Elekam, Eno Abrams Egbe, made the appeal today in Bamenda during a preparatory meeting. Eric Langmawu reports.
In the Northwest, over 600,000 voters have been enrolled into the electoral register across the 7 divisions and 34 councils. Mezam division comes first, followed by Boe. The Menchum division has the least number of registered voters. Here, representatives of political parties have taken firm engagements to participate in the February 9 elections, but they have worries related to their security.
We decided that during this period, the different headquarters of political parties must be known by the security in view to man and protect them so they can move around. And the security corridors will be put in place for the electors to move from one area to the other without any major problem. We've asked exceptionally during this electoral campaign, because of the specificity of the Northwest, there will be polling centers that will be well protected, and also all the meetings of political party leaders and their allies will be well protected, covered.
There are 16 electoral constituencies in the Northwest region, 20 parliamentary seats, and here 6 political parties are competing for the legislative elections: the SDF, CPDM, UDP, the OPDC, the BRIC, and the ANDP. For the municipal elections, 3 political parties, the SDF, CPDM, and NUDP, will be competing in the 34 councils of the Northwest region.
The commander of the 5th Joint Military Region says the army is aware of plans to disrupt the February 19 elections in the Northwest region and has issued a warning to separatist fighters, promising to track down those who do not drop their weapons. Brigadier General Nka Valère spoke in Bamenda after a demonstration through the streets of the Northwest regional capital by the soldiers. Winston Lepka reports from Bamenda.
They are jogging to demonstrate how fit they are for the task of fighting the insecurity characteristic of many parts of the Northwest, especially with the elections in the offing. These soldiers have done a close to 12-kilometer jogging exercise on the streets of Bamenda in less than 2 hours. Here at the 5th Joint Military Region Headquarters, Brigadier General Carvalho salutes the 400 soldiers for their fitness and combat savvy. They are set to be ready for action.
To the so-called generals, the fake generals, Shasha, Tiger, Field Marshal, and all the rest, I want to issue them a strong warning. You are aware of the plans to try to disrupt the electoral process. We already know their hideouts, their whereabouts. It's only a matter of days. We're going to step up military operations, and if they don't lay down their weapons, you are going to strike and crush them.
Amongst these soldiers are new recruits who've just completed a tough training course and are to be deployed to various parts of the Northwest.
The public hearing organized by the administrative bench of the Supreme Court to examine appeal cases from the regional administrative courts has ended in Yaoundé. The big news of the day is the rejection of the SDF list in Yaoundé 6. Quinta Rita Edang has the rest of that story.
After 2 full days of a heated debate between the SDF, the ruling CPDM, and ELECAM, the administrative bench of the Supreme Court finally ruled in favor of the CPDM, rejecting the SDF list for the February 9 municipal election in Yaoundé 6. The petition was filed in by the CPDM, contesting the decision of the Central Regional Administrative Court reinstating the SDF list that had been rejected by ELECAM for the non-payment of the deposit by some candidates. On the other hand, Serge Espoir Matumba of Pius left the court satisfied as his party was authorized to run in Komyambeta in Bam-Enubu division for the upcoming election. They were accused of political nomadism by the CPDM, but the court dismissed the case, saying the law permits people to move freely from one political party to another. Other political parties that saw their list reinstated for the upcoming election include the NUDP in Pitwa, Garwa 2 and Idinau, the CDP in Akwaya, the CPDM in Kongsamba 3, the SDF in Douala 1 and Batibo, the CPNR of Kabralibi, and the MCNC in other localities. The public hearing, chaired by Daniel Ndumbe Eteki, that kicked off last Wednesday with a total of 127 litigations, ended today with more than 60 cases thrown out for poor filing.
The Senate trial for impeached American president started today in the United States Senate. The president is accused of power abuse and obstruction of Congress by the Democrats-dominated House of Representatives who seek his removal from office. Chief International Correspondent Charles Ebune presents the actors and the institutions involved in the Senate trial.
On board Air Force One to fly to Davos for the World Economic Forum, accused White House Chief Tenant Donald Trump.
The managers request that the Senate take order for the trial. The managers now request leave to withdraw.
The Congressional Democrats-dominated House of Representatives impeachment file is based on a July 25 call last year between Trump and Ukraine president, deemed by some as an overabuse of presidential powers to use foreign influence to pursue home-based political rivals, in this case, Joe Biden.
It's a complete hoax, the whole thing with Ukraine.
Almost 6 months of political and legal clashes, the House coined 2 impeachment articles: power abuse and Congress obstruction, because top government officials failed to comply with subpoena.
We never before have tried to impeach and remove a president from office in this country. Thank God, then.
Charges forwarded to the Senate. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States of America presides it, because it involves the President of the United States.
We'll pledge to rise above the petty factionalism and do justice for our institutions, for our states and for the nation.
100 senators, 10 judges, according to the American Constitution, will conduct the trial based on arguments for, brought by Democrats, now prosecutors, and against by the president's legal team.
That the actions taken by the president to undermine our national security, to violate his oath of office.
Clearly, the Senate trial rules are constitutionally absent, so jurisprudence based on the Clinton conviction model will be used.
You will do impartial justice according to the Constitution, so help you God.
I do. A 2/3 Senate vote for is enough for the president to be removed from office to be replaced by the president of the Senate of the United States of America.
CRTV's political scientist and international relations expert, Dr. Asen Godfrey, is our guest on the news today. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening.
And welcome to the news.
Thanks very much.
Now, the provisions of the impeachment, according to the U.S. Constitution, what do they state? What do they say?
Yes, you know, the U.S. Constitution gives the House of Representatives the sole power of impeachment. That is drawn from Article 1 and 2, Section 2 of officials, and it gives the Senate the sole power to try all impeachments. That is from Article 1 and Section 3. In constitutional procedure of impeachment and removal of the House serves in the role of grand jury bringing charges against officials suspected of treason, bribery, or any high crime and misdemeanors from Article 2, Section 4.
And yes, you talk about Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution. What Trump has to do?
Yes, Trump has been impeached already on charges of abuse of power and the construction of the Congress. For Trump to be removed from office, 2/3 of the Senate, which has 67 members, has to vote to convict him. Again, the Senate has 53 Republicans, 45 Democrats, and 2 independents who caucus with Democrats, meaning it's highly likely Trump will be acquitted. Republicans argue Trump cannot be removed from office without committing a crime, and that even if he did, there must be evidence of violating criminal law and witnesses presenting documented evidence within the given time, while the Democrats' minority in the Senate say Trump has gone short of his constitutional responsibility, advancing points why the president can be impeached without committing a crime. The eve of decisive elections in the U.S. has always brought the Americans to political dilemma. So the situation is to show Trump's political strength and the constitutional resilience of the U.S. people.
Now, there's been accusations of what they may have as impacts with the relations between the U.S. and Russia and after the impeachment.
Yes, Moki. As you know, the Russian intention is to divide the U.S. and encourage pluralism in America across its political spectrum. The blaming of the West for the return of a Cold War-like enmity and the sense of pessimism illustrates how difficult it will be to bridge the rift and suggests Russia's relations with the U.S. and Europe are likely to remain antagonistic. As the former Kremlin advisor says, continuous antagonism is likely to invite serious danger and international peace. And of course, the wounds of the Arab Spring are far from being healed as the U.S. and the NATO unable to fill the leadership vacuum created in the Libya on the one hand, and on the other hand, Russia's backed Iran is unable to bring peace in Syria. U.S. is the greatest world power, no doubt, but its inability to address the situation in Syria's backed Russia and Iran gives Russia the advantage of creating a vacuum in the Middle East so as to control the region.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asen Godfrey. I want to indicate that you're a political scientist and international relations expert here with CRTV. Thanks for coming.
Thanks very much.
On to other news items. Now, the strict application of monitoring and follow-up guides by engineers of the Ministry of Public Works has been identified as essential in the reduction cost of and the successful construction of road infrastructures in 2020. This assessment was made at the opening of the annual conference of central and external officials of the Ministry of Public Works, as Joyce Kimbi-Forward reports.
Streamlining technical options and improving governance are assignments these state engineers from within and without are working out the answers. 3 exposés presented by senior staffs from the Ministry of Public Works indicated that the mastery and strict application of monitoring and follow-up guidelines could reduce the cost of construction, maintenance and rehabilitation of Cameroonian road networks in 2020.
We have to master the cost of the construction. When we have finished mastering the cost, we should be able to follow up the implementation properly in order to continue to reduce the cost of the construction.
All stakeholders, private and public sectors involved in road infrastructure were called upon to be cautious.
Everybody should adjust his behavior as far as to follow up is concerned, as far as the cost of construction is concerned. It's not only the officials, we have also private company, we have also control mission. Those structures will carry on studies.
These will certainly feature in resolutions to be tabled Wednesday, as all will wish each other Happy New Year.
Cameroon keys to achieving emergence and development in social inclusion is at the center of reflections at the annual gathering bringing together officials of the Ministry of the Economy. According to Minister Lamin Usman May, the goal in 2020 is to ensure socio-economic growth by putting the needs of inhabitants at the heart of development actions. Clarice Aritakan reports.
At 0.563, Cameroon's Human Development Index indicates that improving the living conditions of the population remains a daunting task. Social inclusion, experts affirm, is an indispensable prerequisite for growth. Officials in charge of planning and regional development agree, challenging themselves in 2020 to identify and put in place strategies which will enforce a people-based growth roadmap. At the heart of the goal is transformation, which targets inequalities, making use of the technological appeal, and fast-tracking the decentralization process. Competitiveness and productivity, the role of the local economy, emergence and sustainable development, as well as fiscal and budgetary consolidation were discussed.
We need to bring it to the market, quality product, competitive one, and become more productive. Today, inequalities are nurturing social unrest. Until we have addressed this issue, it will be difficult for us to create a stable, sustainable development process. The third aspect, to make sure that these local authorities are part of the development process of our nation.
With the 2020-2030 National Development Strategy in the works, corresponding ideas and initiatives are strongly recommended to ensure the success of the Ministry's action plan for 2020.
The Minister of Public Contracts says emphasis will be put on the systematic control of award and execution of public contracts in 2020. Ibrahim Talba Mala was speaking today in Yaoundé as central and devolved officials of his ministry began a 2-day annual conference under the theme Optimizing the Control of Public Contracts and the Execution for Proper Implementation of Projects. Luma Slim Davis has the details.
With the new reforms in the award and execution of public contracts, the 8th edition of the annual conference of the Ministry of Public Contracts is designed to guarantee a big boost.
We are very happy for the capacity building we have instructed our people. Even today we are on the way to enhance their capacity. But the other sector is the control of the quality of processing or awarding the contract and even the execution. But I think that 2020 will be the year of enhancing our capacity to do more and to do better.
The officials will be meeting in workshops and plenary sessions to dissect components of the new reform and strategize on efficient implementation methods.
It's about the rules and regulations which we have prepared. All are okay now. Some of them are already published, and we'll do our best with what is published. And the new sector should be the dematerialization of the contract, the e-procurement, and e-control of what is going on the field.
The conference is expected to focus largely on major problems and their solutions.
In continuation of a series on violence at school, we focus on the teacher and his authority. Many teachers are of the opinion that the national policy prohibiting corporal punishment makes them powerless in front of some students. How true is this assertion? Beatrice Ngom.
Violent confrontations like these ones between teachers and students have gone viral on social media platforms lately. A situation that has left opinions divided. Some think globalization is poorly copied. Others blame fallen societal values. Meanwhile, some teachers decry national policies that have banished the use of the cane. But views are varied in these regards.
We vehemently took a decision that we should put away the cane and spend more time with the student.
The cane had its place long ago, but it is not. Today, you use the word to transform the kid.
They recommend that pedagogues should affirm themselves while insisting that there are various forms of punishment.
You can be suspended for 1 week, 3 days, maybe. For us, they give you a sentence. I will not do it again. You write this sentence 100 or maybe 1,000 times.
Imagine a child is coming from a polygamous home. The father has never cared about the child. And that child is conditioned by what he meets in society. So it is our role when we identify recalcitrant students.
And those who study societies and cultures advocate for an educative system that promotes a good working and learning environment.
You don't have to leave children or students doing everything they want because there is the right for children, the right for, I don't know.
Many insist that the rights of the child can still be respected without the teachers losing their authority.
Alain Belibi, he has won the hearts of many with his voice, choice of words, and his strong pen for close to 4 decades. Alain Belibi is a celebrated journalist with the French-language primetime news Le 13h, the lead magazine program Dimanche Midi, and the no-nonsense TV program Actualité Hebdo as testimonies of his savoir-faire. He retires as a fulfilled man. After his last radio show today, Emmanuel Vumnui was there and our reports.
The magic voice articulates the well-crafted pieces for Les Matinées de la CRTV. Alain Belibi plays the pivot in a game the winner is known. The microphone, his playing ground. The listeners, his judges. But more so, those his strong pen has molded over the years.
I'm so honored. He is not only a elder in our profession, but he became a father. I'm really delighted to have him this morning.
It's a kind of dream. I didn't know when I was just a little girl that I would sit near Alain Belibi, discuss with I.
It's been so delightful working with him throughout these years from when I was recruited, and then the focal point was today when I had to share the same set with Alain Belibi. It was so wonderful.
His last chat with the audience of a talk show he is part of its conception, Les Matinées de la CRTV has it all, from the choice of guests to the playlist. 40 years of a brilliant career in journalism. Le 13h, Dimanche Midi with his slot, Signe de Temps, and Actualité Hebdo have his signature, No regrets, no work left undone, but leaves with assurance.
I'm happy to leave people like Chitabile, like Steve, and the others. I'm happy because the future is bright.
Alain Belibi, the celebrated journalist, the administrator, quits the stage when the applause is loudest, and the present generation needs a lot of work to fit into his shoes.
Alain Belibi, the master. The Minister of Sports and Physical Education has given contractors of the Japoma Stadium complex 10 days to complete works on the parking lot. Professor Narcis Molekombi was speaking today in Douala after a visit to sports infrastructure that will be hosting continental soccer events. Rene Kache reports from Douala.
Busy day it was for the sports boss, whose inspection tour in Douala took off upon reception at the Pont de la Dibamba by the region's administrative authorities. First stop, the Japoma Sports Complex. Here, Professor Narcis Molekombi expressed satisfaction with what has been done so far, but instructed that the parking lot be completed in 10 days before the CAV inspection visit on February 9. Worth noting is the fact that the 50,000 capacity stadium is completed and impatiently waiting to be put to use. The minister, accompanied by the local organizing committee of the 2020 Shan for the Douala site, drove along the busy Japoman Dock Passes stretch of road under renovation before arriving at the Mbapelepe Stadium. A stadium completed and ready for use. Good news for lovers of football in Douala, who will henceforth converge on the Mbapelepe Stadium to watch Elite One matches. This under the instruction of the minister. At the Douala Bepanda Omnisport Stadium, which is already completed, the sports boss was more interested in the installation of optical fibers that will facilitate telecommunications during the Shan and the AFCON. Engineers did a test on the installation in front of the minister, and all went well. Professor Molekombi, however, called on the contractors McGill to double their efforts. The minister and his delegation also inspected the Bonamusadi Stadium, which is one of the training fields.
That ends the news. But before we leave you, Cameroon's Decentralization Board has examined strides made in 2019 and fine-tuned strategies for the effective implementation of a recently promulgated law ceding powers to local councils. They met today in the nation's capital.